Do you ever wonder why you keep repeating the same patterns in relationships? Why you choose the same type of person? Why you react the same way in conflicts? Why intimacy feels so difficult? Or why you push people away just when they get close? Or why you cling when you feel them pulling back? And you have tried to change, tried to do it differently, tried to be different. But the patterns persist. The reactions return. The same dynamics play out. Again and again. And you wonder, is this just who I am? Is this my personality? My fate? Or is there something deeper? Something earlier? Something that can be understood? And maybe healed? Tonight, we explore this through Melanie Klein, a psychoanalyst who understood that our earliest relationships create templates, internal patterns, ways of relating that follow us into every relationship, every connection, every intimacy. She called these internal objects, and she believed that understanding them, seeing them clearly, is the first step toward healing, toward changing the patterns, toward finding secure attachment, not because you were born with it, but because you can earn it, can develop it, can heal into it. This is the still point, where we gather to do the deep work, the work of understanding our patterns, our attachments, our ways of relating. If you are called to this work, subscribe. Be here as we explore what shapes us and how we can heal. Let the world fall away. You are safe here, and the work begins now. Insight 1, the pattern you cannot break. Perhaps you have noticed it. The pattern, the way your relationships always seem to follow the same script. You meet someone, feel excited, feel hopeful. This time will be different. But then something happens. The same dynamics emerge, the same conflicts, the same feelings, the same ending, or the same staying in something that does not work. And you wonder, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep choosing this? Why can I not break this pattern? And perhaps you have tried, have read the books, have gone to therapy, have promised yourself you will do it differently next time. And maybe you do. For a while, you choose someone different, someone who seems safe, or exciting, or stable, whatever you think you need. But then the pattern returns. The familiar feelings, the familiar dynamics, the familiar pain, and you realize it is not about who you choose. It is about how you relate. It is about something in you, something automatic, something you learned so long ago you do not even remember learning it. And Melanie Klein would say, this is your attachment style, your way of relating, learned in the first months and years of life, in your earliest relationships, with your primary caregiver, usually your mother. And these early experiences created templates, internal patterns, ways of seeing yourself, ways of seeing others, ways of expecting relationships to go. And these templates are not conscious, are not chosen, are automatic, or what Klein called internal objects. And they shape everything, every relationship, every connection, every intimacy. And the call is to see this, to recognize your pattern, not to blame yourself, not to feel broken, but to understand, to see that your attachment style is not your personality, is not your fate, is something you learned, something that made sense given your early experiences, something that once protected you, but may now be limiting you, hurting you, keeping you from the connection you long for. And understanding this is the first step, the call, the beginning of healing. Insight 2, the anxious pattern. And perhaps your pattern is this. You meet someone, feel intense attraction, intense hope. This is it. This is the one. And at first, it feels good, feels right. But then the anxiety begins. Small at first. A text not returned quickly enough. A plan changed. A moment of distance. And you feel it. The panic. The fear. Are they pulling away? Are they losing interest? Are they going to leave? And you try to manage it. Try to stay calm. Try not to be needy. But the anxiety grows. And you find yourself checking their phone, checking their social media, checking for signs they still care, signs they still want you, signs they are not leaving. And you need reassurance, constant reassurance, that they love you, that they are not going anywhere, that you are safe. But no amount of reassurance is ever enough. The anxiety always returns. The fear always comes back. And Klein would say, this is anxious attachment. And it comes from early experiences where love was inconsistent, where the caregiver was sometimes there, sometimes not, sometimes responsive, sometimes absent. And you learn that love is unpredictable, that people leave, that you must hold on tight, must monitor constantly, must do everything to keep them close. Because if you relax, if you let go, they will disappear. And this pattern follows you into every relationship, creating the very thing you fear, because your anxiety pushes people away. Your need for reassurance exhausts them. Your checking feels like control, and they pull back, and your fear is confirmed again. And perhaps you recognize this. Recognize yourself in this pattern. See how you have spent relationships anxious, worried, afraid, never quite believing you are loved, never quite feeling secure, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And you are exhausted, tired of the anxiety, tired of the fear, tired of pushing people away with your need to hold them close. And the call is to see this, to understand where it comes from, to recognize it is not who you are, is what you learned, is how you adapted, and it can be healed. Insight 3, the avoidant pattern. Or perhaps your pattern is different. You meet someone, feel attracted, but also wary, cautious. You keep some distance, some part of yourself held back. And at first, this feels safe, feels right. You are independent, self-sufficient. You do not need anyone. And this feels like strength, like protection. But then they want more. want closeness, want intimacy, want to know you, really know you, and you feel it, the discomfort, the urge to pull away, to create distance, to protect yourself. And you tell yourself you value independence, value freedom, do not want to be tied down, do not want to be vulnerable, do not want to need anyone. And you find reasons why this person is not right, reasons why the relationship will not work, reasons to leave, or reasons to stay but keep your distance. Keep your walls up. Keep yourself safe. And you do. You stay independent. Stay protected. Stay alone. And you tell yourself this is what you want. But sometimes, in quiet moments, you wonder. Wonder if you are missing something. Wonder if you are afraid. Wonder if you are running. And Klein would say, this is avoidant attachment. And it comes from early experiences where closeness was dangerous, where needs were rejected, where vulnerability was punished. And you learn that needing is weakness, that closeness is threatening, that the only safety is in distance, in independence, in not needing anyone. And this pattern follows you into every relationship, keeping you safe, but also keeping you alone, because you cannot have intimacy without vulnerability, cannot have connection without need, cannot have love without risk. And your walls protect you, but also imprison you. And perhaps you recognize this. Recognize yourself in this pattern. See how you have spent relationships distant, guarded, safe but alone, never quite letting anyone in, never quite allowing yourself to need, never quite believing closeness is safe. And you are tired, tired of being alone, tired of the walls, tired of missing connection while protecting yourself from it. And the call is to see this, to understand where it comes from, to recognize it is not strength, is defense, is protection you no longer need, and it can be healed. Insight 4, the fearful pattern. Or perhaps your pattern is more complex, more contradictory. You meet someone, feel intense attraction, intense fear. You want closeness, but closeness terrifies you. You move toward them, then push them away. You need them, then resent needing them. You love them, then hate them for making you vulnerable. And you are caught between wanting and fearing, between needing and rejecting, between love and terror. And your relationships are chaotic, intense, dramatic. You pull them close, then push them away. You say you love them, then say you want to leave. You need reassurance, then reject it when given. And you feel crazy, feel out of control, feel like you are sabotaging the very thing you want. And you are exhausted by the intensity, the conflict, the constant push and pull. And you wonder, why am I like this? Why can I not just be normal? Why can I not just love without fear? And Klein would say, this is fearful avoidant attachment, also called disorganized attachment. And it comes from early experiences where the caregiver was the source of both comfort and fear. where you needed them but they hurt you, where closeness meant danger, and you learn that love is terrifying, that needing is dangerous, that the person you need most is the person who hurts you most. And this creates an impossible bind. You cannot live with them, cannot live without them, cannot get close, cannot stay away. And this pattern follows you into every relationship, creating chaos, creating pain, creating the very abandonment you fear. And perhaps you recognize this. Recognize yourself in this pattern. See how you have spent relationships in chaos, in intensity, in push and pull, never quite able to settle, never quite able to trust, never quite able to believe love is safe. And you are exhausted, tired of the trauma, tired of hurting people, tired of hurting yourself. And the call is to see this, to understand where it comes from, to recognize it is not who you are, is what happened to you, is how you survived, and it can be healed. Insight 5, the secure pattern you long for, and perhaps you have seen it in others, the people who seem to do relationships easily, who trust, who are comfortable with closeness, who can be intimate without losing themselves, who can be independent without being distant, who can need without being needy, who can love without fear. And you wonder, how do they do it? What do they have that I do not? Why is it so easy for them? And Klein would say they have secure attachment. They internalize good objects, had early experiences where they were seen, were responded to, were loved consistently, and they learn that people are trustworthy, that closeness is safe, that needs will be met, that love is reliable, and this became their template, their internal pattern, their way of relating, and it follows them into every relationship, making connection easier, making intimacy possible, making love feel safe. But Klein would also say, secure attachment is not only for those who had perfect childhoods, is not only for those who are lucky, can be earned, can be developed, can be healed into, through understanding, through new experiences, through relationships that offer something different, through therapy, through self-compassion, through the slow work of repatterning, of creating new internal objects, of learning that closeness can be safe, that needs can be met, that love can be reliable, even if it was not before, even if you did not learn it then. You can learn it now. And this is the promise. Not that healing is easy, not that it is quick, not that you can simply decide to be secure and become so, but that it is possible, that your attachment style is not fixed, is not your fate, is something that can change, can heal, can transform, through understanding, through awareness, through the willingness to see your patterns, to understand where they come from, to recognize they are not who you are, or what you learned, and what was learned can be relearned, can be healed, can be changed. Insight 6, the call to understanding. And so the call comes, not to fix yourself, not to become someone different, not to force yourself into secure attachment, but to understand, to see your pattern clearly, to recognize your attachment style, to understand where it comes from, to see how it shapes your relationships, your reactions, your fears, your defenses, and in this understanding, to begin to have choice, to begin to respond rather than react, to begin to create new patterns, new experiences, new internal objects. And this understanding begins with seeing, with recognizing, with acknowledging, this is my pattern. This is how I relate. This is what I learned. And it made sense given my early experiences, made sense as a way to survive, to protect myself, to manage an unsafe world. But now I am an adult. Now I have resources I did not have then. Now I can choose differently, can relate differently, can heal. And this is the call, the invitation, the beginning to see your attachment style, to understand it, to have compassion for it, and to begin the work of healing, of earning secure attachment, of creating new patterns, of learning that love can be safe, that closeness can be trusted, that you can be both intimate and free, both connected in yourself. And this work begins now, with you, with your willingness to see, to understand, to heal. Now we hold up the mirror, and what you see will not be comfortable. We'll show you how your internal objects shape every relationship, every connection, every intimacy. We'll show you how you carry your earliest experiences inside you, how they become the lens through which you see everyone, everything. We'll show you how you project, how you split, how you recreate the past and the present. This is not to blame you, not to shame you, but to help you see clearly, because you cannot change what you do not see, cannot heal what you do not understand. And the mirror shows you everything, shows you your internal world, shows you how it shapes your external relationships. And in seeing this, you can begin to change it. Insight 7, the good object and the bad object. Look at how you see people, how you categorize them, how you split them into good and bad, all good or all bad, never both, never complex, never human. And Klein would say, this is splitting. This is the paranoid schizoid position. This is how infants see the world. Mother is either all good, the good breast that feeds and comforts, or all bad, the bad breast that is absent and frustrating. Cannot be both. Cannot be the same person. Cannot be integrated. And you carry this into adulthood, into your relationships. You meet someone. They are wonderful, perfect, all good. They can do no wrong. You idealize them, put them on a pedestal, see only their good qualities, ignore their flaws, deny their humanity, and you feel safe, feel loved, feel like you have found the one. But then something happens. They disappoint you, hurt you, fail to meet your expectations, and suddenly they are all bad, terrible, the worst. You see only their flaws, forget their good qualities. cannot remember why you love them. And the mirror shows you this. Shows you how you cannot hold both. Cannot see people as whole, as complex, as both good and bad, as human. And this splitting protects you from the anxiety of ambivalence, from having to hold contradictory feelings, from loving someone who also hurts you, from meeting someone who also disappoints you. But it also destroys relationships, because no one can stay all good. No one can meet the idealized image. And when they fail, when they show their humanity, you cannot integrate it, cannot adjust, can only split them into all bad, and leave, or stay but resent. And the pattern repeats. And Klein would say, this is because you have not reached the depressive position, have not learned to integrate good and bad, have not developed the capacity to see people as whole, to love them despite their flaws, to need them despite their failures, to hold the complexity, the ambivalence, the reality that the person you love is also the person who hurts you. And this is the work, the healing, learning to integrate, to move from splitting to wholeness, from idealization and devaluation to realistic love, from the paranoid schizoid position to the depressive position. Insight 8, the internal critic. And look at how you speak to yourself. The voice in your head, the one that criticizes, that judges, that tells you are not enough, not good enough, not lovable enough, not worthy enough. And you believe it, have believed it for so long you think it is your voice, your truth, your reality. But Klein would say, this is not your voice, is an internal object, is the internalized voice of early caregivers, of parents who were critical, demanding, never satisfied. And you took that voice inside, made it part of you, and now it speaks to you, constantly, relentlessly, telling you are failing, you are wrong, you are bad. And this internal critic shapes everything. How you see yourself, how you relate to others, how you expect to be treated. If your internal object is critical, you expect others to be critical. You hear criticism even when it is not there. You interpret neutral comments as attacks. You defend against imagined judgments. And you prove yourself right. Because your defensiveness creates conflict. Your expectation of criticism makes others critical. Your internal object becomes external reality through what Klein called projective identification. And the mirror shows you this. Shows you how you carry this critical voice, how it is not the truth about you, is the internalized experience of being criticized, of not being good enough, of conditional love, and it follows you into every relationship, every interaction, every moment of self-reflection, making you feel inadequate, unworthy, unlovable, not because you are, but because this is what you internalized. This is the bad object inside you, speaking, judging, attacking. And Klein would say, you can change this, can develop new internal objects, can internalize new experiences of being accepted, being valued, being loved unconditionally, through therapy, through relationships that offer something different, through self-compassion, through the slow work of replacing the critical voice with a compassionate one, the bad object with a good object, the internalized judgment with internalized acceptance. This is possible. This is healing. This is how internal objects change. Insight 9, projective identification in relationships. And look at how you make others feel what you cannot feel. How you project your feelings onto them, and then make them experience those feelings. Klein called this projective identification, and it is one of the most powerful and destructive patterns in relationships. You feel rejected, but cannot tolerate feeling rejected. So you project it. You believe they are rejecting you, and you act accordingly. You withdraw. You attack. You test them, and they feel confused, feel pushed away, feel like you are rejecting them, and they respond. They pull back. They get defensive. They actually reject you, and your projection becomes reality. Or you feel angry, but cannot tolerate your anger, cannot express it directly, so you project it. You believe they are angry at you. You act like they are attacking you. You defend yourself against their imagined anger, and they feel confused, feel accused, feel attacked, and they get angry, actually angry, and your projection becomes reality. You created what you feared, made them feel what you could not feel, and now you can say, "See, I was right. They were angry. They were rejecting me." But you do not see your role. Do not see how you created it, how your projection shaped their response. And the mirror shows you this, shows you how you do this, how you project your unbearable feelings onto others, how you make them experience what you cannot experience, how you create self-fulfilling prophecies, how you recreate your internal world in your external relationships. And this is not conscious, is not intentional, is automatic, is how you learn to manage feelings you could not tolerate, feelings that were too dangerous, too overwhelming, too threatening, and you still do it, still project, still make others carry what you cannot carry. And Klein would say, awareness is the first step. Seeing this pattern, recognizing when you are projecting, asking yourself, is this really about them? Or is this about me? Is this their feeling? Or is this my feeling that I cannot tolerate? And in this awareness, you can begin to own your feelings, to feel them yourself, to express them directly, to stop making others carry them, to stop creating what you fear. And this is healing. This is growth. This is how projective identification stops. Insight 10, envy and the destruction of good. And look at how you respond to good things, to success, to love, to happiness, your own or others. And Klein would say, watch for envy, not jealousy. Envy. Jealousy is wanting what someone else has. Envy is wanting to destroy what someone else has, because its existence makes you feel your lack, makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel less than, and you cannot tolerate this feeling, so you attack, You diminish. You devalue. You destroy. And you do this to others. Someone succeeds, and instead of feeling happy for them, you feel envious. You find flaws in their success. You diminish their achievement. You tell yourself it was luck. It was unfair. It was not deserved. And you feel better. Feel less inadequate. But you have destroyed the good. Have attacked what you envy. Have made yourself unable to learn from them, to be inspired by them, to connect with them, because envy isolates. Envy destroys relationship. Envy keeps you stuck. But worse, you do this to yourself. You have something good, a good relationship, a good opportunity, a moment of happiness, and you destroy it. You sabotage it. You find what is wrong with it. You cannot enjoy it, cannot appreciate it, cannot let yourself have it, because having good makes you anxious, makes you feel you do not deserve it, makes you feel it will be taken away. So you take it away yourself. You destroy it before it can be destroyed. You reject before you can be rejected. You leave before you can be left. And you call this protection. But Klein would call it envy. Envy of your own good. Envy of your own happiness. Envy that destroys what you most want. And the mirror shows you this. Shows you how envy operates. How it destroys good. How it keeps you from having what you want. How it isolates you. How it makes you attack what you need. And Klein would say, the antidote to envy is gratitude, is learning to appreciate, to value, to cherish, to protect good rather than destroy it, to feel grateful for what you have rather than envious of what you lack, to celebrate others rather than diminish them. And this is hard, is the work of a lifetime, but is essential, is how you stop destroying good, how you let yourself have what you want, how you heal envy. Inside 11, the repetition compulsion, and look at how you repeat, how you choose the same type of person, how you recreate the same dynamics, how you end up in the same situations, again and again, and you wonder, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep choosing this? And Klein would say, because you are trying to master what you could not master as a child. You are trying to get from this person what you did not get from your caregiver. You are trying to make it turn out differently this time. But you cannot, because you are choosing people who cannot give you what you need, because you are recreating the original situation, the original deprivation, the original wound. If your mother was unavailable, you'd choose unavailable partners. If your father was critical, you'd choose critical partners. If your caregiver was inconsistent, you choose inconsistent partners, not because you want to suffer, but because this is familiar. This is what you know. This is your internal object, and you are trying to change it, trying to make the unavailable person available, the critical person accepting, the inconsistent person reliable. You are trying to heal the original wound. But you cannot, because you cannot change other people, cannot make them give you what they cannot give, cannot heal the past by recreating it in the present. And the mirror shows you this, shows you how you repeat, how you choose the same type, how you recreate the same dynamics, how you are stuck in the repetition compulsion, trying to master what cannot be mastered, trying to heal what cannot be healed this way. And Klein would say, the way out is not to keep trying with the same type of person, is to grieve that you did not get what you needed, to grieve that you cannot get it from them, to grieve the original loss, and then to choose differently, to choose people who can give you what you need, who are available, who are accepting, who are reliable, not to recreate the past, but to create something new. And this is hard, because choosing differently feels wrong, feels unfamiliar, feels unsafe, because your internal object says, this is not love. Love is unavailable. Love is critical. Love is inconsistent. And when someone offers you something different, you do not recognize it, do not trust it, do not know how to receive it, and you may even reject it, may even sabotage it, because it does not match your internal object, does not fit your template. And this is the work, learning to recognize real love, real availability, real acceptance, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it does not match your internal object, learning to receive what you actually need, rather than what you are used to. Insight 12, the mirror's invitation. And so the mirror has shown you everything, has shown you how you split people into good and bad, how you carry an internal critic, how you use projective identification, how envy destroys good, how you repeat the past. And now the mirror asks, are you ready? Ready to see your internal objects clearly? Ready to understand how they shape your relationships? Ready to recognize your patterns? Not to judge yourself, not to feel ashamed, but to understand, to see, to know. Because seeing is the beginning of change. Awareness is the foundation of healing. You cannot change what you do not see, cannot heal what you do not understand. And the mirror has shown you, has made visible what was invisible, has brought into awareness what was unconscious. And now you have choice. Now you can respond rather than react. Now you can recognize when you are splitting, when you are projecting, when you are envying, when you are repeating, and you can choose differently, can integrate rather than split, can own rather than project, can appreciate rather than envy, can choose new rather than repeat old. And this is not easy, is not quick, is not comfortable, because your internal objects are deep, are old, are automatic, have been with you since infancy, and they do not change easily, do not let go willingly. They are your survival strategies, your ways of making sense of the world, your templates for relationship. And changing them means facing anxiety, means tolerating uncertainty, means risking new ways of being. But it is possible. Klein proved it is possible through awareness, through new experiences, through relationships that offer something different, through therapy, through the slow work of internalizing new objects, creating new templates, developing new ways of relating. And the mirror invites you to begin, to take the first step, to see your internal objects, to understand your patterns, to recognize how your earliest relationships live inside you, shape you, guide you, and to begin to change them, not by force, not by willpower, but by awareness, by understanding, by compassion, by slowly, gently creating new internal objects, new experiences of being seen, being valued, being loved, and letting these new experiences change you, heal you, transform your internal world, and through that, transform your relationships, your connections, your capacity for intimacy. This is the work. This is the healing. And it begins with the mirror, with seeing clearly, with understanding deeply, with knowing yourself. Now we descend into the architecture, into Klein's theoretical framework, into the structure that explains why your relationships are the way they are, why you attach the way you do, why you repeat the patterns you repeat. This is not abstract theory. It is the blueprint of your internal world, the map of your object relations. And in understanding this architecture, you gain the power to change it, to rebuild, to create new internal objects, to develop or secure attachment, even if you did not have it as a child, even if your early experiences were difficult. You can heal, and the architecture shows you how. Insight 13, the paranoid schizoid position. Klein identified the first psychological position, the paranoid schizoid position. This is where we all began, in the first months of life, and some of us never fully leave. This position is characterized by splitting, by seeing things as all good or all bad, by primitive defenses, by paranoid anxiety, the fear that bad objects will attack, will destroy, will annihilate. And Klein understood that this is normal, is necessary, is how infants manage overwhelming experience. But when we stay here, when we cannot move beyond this position, we suffer. Our relationships suffer. Our capacity for intimacy suffers. In the paranoid schizoid position, the infant experiences the mother as two separate objects. The good breast, the one that feeds, that comforts, that satisfies, and the bad breast, the one that is absent, that frustrates, that deprives. Cannot understand these are the same person, cannot integrate good and bad, can only split, can only experience one or the other, never both. And this splitting protects the good object, keeps it pure, keeps it safe from the bad, but also prevents integration, prevents wholeness, prevents realistic perception. And the paranoid anxiety comes from fear of the bad object, fear it will attack, will retaliate, will destroy the self. This is not realistic fear, is primitive, is existential, is the fear of annihilation. And the infant defends against this through projection, projects the bad feelings outward, projects the aggression, projects the destructiveness onto the bad object, and then fears the bad object will attack with these projected feelings, will retaliate, will destroy. And this creates a cycle of projection and fear, of splitting and anxiety, that can last a lifetime if not resolved. And you see this in adult relationships. When you split your partner into all good or all bad, when you cannot hold complexity, cannot tolerate ambivalence, when you feel persecuted, feel attacked, feel like they are out to hurt you, when you project your anger onto them, then fear their anger, when you cannot integrate, cannot see them as whole, cannot love them as they are. This is the paranoid schizoid position. This is where you are stuck. And Klein would say, you must move beyond this, must reach the depressive position, must learn to integrate, to see wholeness, to tolerate ambivalence. This is psychological maturity. This is the foundation of secure attachment. Insight 14, the depressive position. And Klein identified the second psychological position, the depressive position. This is the achievement of psychological maturity. Usually begins around 4 to 6 months, when the infant begins to recognize that the good breast and the bad breast are the same person. That mother is whole, is complex, is both good and bad. And this recognition brings a new kind of anxiety, depressive anxiety, not fear of being attacked, but fear of having damaged the loved object. Fear that your own aggression, your own greed, your own destructiveness has hurt the person you love, the person you need. And this is painful, is the beginning of guilt, of remorse, of concern for the other. The infant realizes, I have attacked the breast I need. I have hated the mother I love. I have been destructive toward the person I depend on. And this creates depressive anxiety, the fear that you have damaged the good object, that your love and hate have destroyed what you need, that you have lost the loved object through your own aggression. And this is unbearable, is the source of deep pain, but also the source of growth, of maturity, of the capacity for real love. Because in the depressive position, something new becomes possible. Reparation, the desire to repair, to make amends, to restore the damaged object, to care for the person you have hurt. And this is the beginning of real relationship, of genuine concern, of the capacity to see the other as separate, as whole, as deserving of care, not just as a source of gratification, not just as good or bad, but as a person, complex, human, worthy of love despite their flaws, worthy of care despite their failures. And this is what secure attachment requires: the capacity to reach the depressive position, to integrate good and bad, to tolerate ambivalence, to feel guilt and make reparation, to love realistically rather than idealistically. And Klein would say, the depressive position is not a place you reach once and stay. It is a psychological achievement you must maintain, must return to, because under stress, under threat, under anxiety, we all regress. All return to the paranoid schizoid position. All split. All project. All feel persecuted. And this is normal, is human. But psychological health is the capacity to return to the depressive position, to reintegrate, to see wholeness again, to repair, to restore relationship. And this capacity is what we develop through healing, through therapy, through new relationship experiences, through the slow work of building internal good objects that can sustain us, that can help us integrate, that can help us love. Insight 15, internal objects and fantasy. And Klein understood that from birth, we create an internal world, a world of internal objects. These are not memories, not conscious representations, or unconscious fantasies. Fantasy with a PH, to distinguish from conscious fantasy. These fantasies are the infant's way of making sense of experience, of organizing sensation, of creating meaning, and they become the building blocks of the internal world, the templates for all future relationships, the foundation of personality. The good internal object is built from experiences of satisfaction, of being fed, of being held, of being comforted. The infant internalizes these experiences, creates an internal good object, a sense that there is goodness in the world, that needs can be met, that comfort is possible, and this good internal object becomes a source of security, of self-soothing, of the capacity to be alone, to tolerate frustration, to trust that good will return. This is the foundation of secure attachment. The internalized good object that says, you are safe, you are loved, you are worthy. The bad internal object is built from experiences of frustration, of deprivation, of pain. The infant internalizes these experiences, creates an internal bad object, a sense that the world is dangerous, that needs will not be met, that pain is inevitable, and this bad internal object becomes a source of anxiety, of self-attack, of the inability to self-soothe, to trust, to feel secure. This is the foundation of insecure attachment. The internalized bad object that says, you are not safe, you are not loved, you are not worthy, and you carry this into every relationship, every interaction, every moment of your life. And Klein would say, these internal objects are not fixed, are not permanent, can be modified, can be changed through new experiences, through relationships that offer something different, through therapy that provides a new kind of object relationship, through the slow work of internalizing new good objects, building new internal resources, creating new templates. And this is how attachment heals. Not by changing the past, cannot change what happened, but by creating new internal objects, new experiences of being seen, being valued, being loved, that slowly, over time, modify the old objects, soften the bad objects, strengthen the good objects, and create the possibility of secure attachment, even if you did not have it before. Insight 16, projective identification as communication. And Klein's most important discovery was projective identification. This is not just a defense mechanism, not just a way of getting rid of unwanted feelings. It is also a form of communication, a way of making others understand what you cannot put into words, what you cannot consciously know. The infant cannot say, I feel terrified, I feel abandoned, I feel enraged, but the infant can make the mother feel these things, can project these feelings into her. can make her experience what the infant is experiencing. And if the mother can contain these feelings, can tolerate them, can understand them, can give them back in a more manageable form, the infant learns that feelings can be tolerated, can be understood, can be survived. This is what Klein called containment. The mother's capacity to receive the infant's projections, to hold them, to process them, to return them in a form the infant can manage. And this is how the infant develops the capacity to manage feelings, to tolerate anxiety, to self-soothe, through the experience of being contained, of having feelings held, of having internal chaos organized by an external other. And when this does not happen, when the mother cannot contain, cannot tolerate, cannot process, the infant is left with unmanageable feelings, with internal chaos, with no way to organize experience. And this becomes the foundation of insecure attachment, of the inability to regulate emotion, of the need to continue projecting, to continue making others feel what you cannot feel. And you do this in adult relationships. You project your feelings into your partner, make them feel what you cannot feel. And if they can contain it, can understand it, can give it back to you in a manageable form, you learn, you grow, you develop new capacity. But if they cannot, if they reject your projections, if they attack you for making them feel this way, you are left with the original chaos, the original unmanageable feelings. And you must project again, must find someone else to contain, must continue the pattern. And this is why therapy works, why healing relationships work, because they offer containment, offer the experience of having your feelings held, understood, processed, returned in manageable form. And through this, you internalize the containing function, develop your own capacity to hold feelings, to tolerate anxiety, to self-soothe. And this is how attachment heals. Insight 17, envy and the attack on linking. And Klein understood that envy is one of the most destructive forces in human psychology. Envy is not wanting what someone else has, is wanting to spoil it, to destroy it, to make sure no one can have it, because its existence makes you feel your lack, makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel less than, and you cannot tolerate this. So you attack, you spoil, you destroy. And Klein believed envy is constitutional, is innate, is part of human nature. Some people have more, some have less, but everyone has some capacity for envy. And it must be managed, must be transformed, must be overcome through gratitude. But envy does not just attack good objects. Attacks linking, attacks the capacity to connect, to relate, to take in good. Klein called this the attack on linking. When you are envious, you cannot take in what is offered, cannot learn, cannot be nourished, cannot allow yourself to receive. Because receiving means acknowledging that the other has something you need, has something good. And this makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel dependent, makes you feel less than. So you attack the link. You reject what is offered. You spoil the good. You make sure you cannot receive it. And this keeps you stuck, keeps you deprived, keeps you unable to heal. And you see this in therapy, in relationships, in learning, when you cannot take in what is offered, cannot accept help, cannot allow yourself to be taught, cannot receive love, not because it is not there, but because receiving it makes you feel envious, makes you feel inadequate, makes you acknowledge your need, your dependence, your lack, and you cannot tolerate this. So you attack the linking, you reject the help, you spoil the relationship, you make sure you cannot receive what you need. And Klein would say, this is the most difficult thing to heal, because envy attacks the very process of healing, attacks the relationship that could help, attacks the capacity to take in good. And the only way through is gratitude, is learning to appreciate, to value, to cherish what is offered, to protect the good rather than destroy it. And this is hard, is the work of a lifetime, but is essential for healing. Inside 18, the path to integration. And so the architecture is complete. You understand the paranoid schizoid position, the depressive position, internal objects, projective identification, envy and gratitude. And you understand that these are not just theories, are the structure of your internal world, the blueprint of your relationships, the foundation of your attachment style. And understanding this architecture gives you power, gives you the ability to see what is happening, to recognize when you are splitting, when you are projecting, when you are envying, when you are stuck in the paranoid schizoid position, and to choose differently, to move toward the depressive position, to integrate, to repair, to love realistically. And Klein would say, the path to secure attachment is the path to the depressive position, is learning to integrate good and bad, to see people as whole, to tolerate ambivalence, to feel guilt and make reparation, to contain your own feelings rather than project them, to appreciate rather than envy, to protect good rather than destroy it. And this path is not easy, is not quick, requires the slow work of building new internal objects, of internalizing new experiences, of developing new capacities. But it is possible. Klein proved it is possible through therapy, through healing relationships, through the willingness to see, to understand, to change. And this is what we explore next. In the shadows, where we face the early experiences that created your internal objects, that shaped your attachment style, that made you who you are, and in facing them, begin to heal them. Now we descend into the shadows, into the earliest experiences, the ones you do not remember consciously, but that live in your body, in your reactions, in your internal objects. This is not comfortable, is not easy, is the work of facing what shaped you, what created your attachment style, what built your internal world. And Klein understood that you cannot heal what you do not face, cannot change what you do not see, cannot build new internal objects without understanding the old ones. And so we go down into infancy, into the first months, into the experiences that created everything. Not to blame your caregivers, not to make them wrong, but to understand, to see, to finally make sense of why you are the way you are. Insight 19, the infant who was not held. And perhaps this was your experience. Not being held, not physically. You were fed. You were changed. You were kept alive. But you were not held. Not in the way Klein meant. Not contained. Not seen. Not responded to. Your caregiver was there, but not present. Was going through the motions, but not connecting. Was meeting your physical needs, but not your emotional ones. And you felt it, even as an infant. Felt the absence, felt the emptiness, felt that something was missing. And Klein would say, this is how bad internal objects are created. Not through dramatic abuse, not through obvious neglect, but through the absence of containment, the absence of being held emotionally, the absence of having your feelings received, understood, processed, returned in manageable form. And without this, you were left alone, left with overwhelming feelings, left with no way to organize your internal experience, left with chaos. And you internalize this, internalize the absence, internalize the emptiness, internalize the sense that your feelings are too much, are unmanageable, are dangerous. And this became your internal object, the absent object, the one that is physically there but emotionally gone. And you carry this into every relationship. You choose people who are there but not present, who go through the motions but do not connect, who meet your surface needs but not your deep ones. And you feel it. Feel the familiar emptiness. Feel the familiar absence. And you think, this is love. This is what I deserve. This is all there is. Because this is what you internalized. This is your internal object. This is what feels familiar. What feels like home. Even though it hurts. Even though it leaves you empty. Even though it is not enough. And the shadow asks you to see this, to feel this, to acknowledge I was not held, not in the way I needed, not emotionally, not deeply. And this absence shaped me, created my internal objects, created my attachment style, created my sense that I am alone, that my feelings are too much, that no one can really hold me. And this is grief, is the grief of what was not given, what was not received, what was missing. And you must feel this grief, must let it move through you, must acknowledge the loss before you can heal, before you can create new internal objects, before you can learn that you can be held, can be contained, can be seen. Insight 20, the infant who was intruded upon. Or perhaps your experience was different. Not absence, but intrusion. Your caregiver was not absent, was very present, too present, overwhelming, intrusive, could not tolerate your separateness, could not let you be, had to control, had to manage, had to make you what they needed you to be. And you felt it, even as an infant, felt the intrusion, felt the lack of space, felt that you could not be yourself, could not have your own feelings, could not exist separately. And Klein would say, this creates a different kind of bad internal object, the intrusive object, the one that invades, that does not respect boundaries, that cannot tolerate your autonomy. And you internalize this. Internalize the sense that you have no right to your own feelings, your own needs, your own self, that you exist to meet others' needs, to be what they need, to have no boundaries, no separateness, no autonomy. And this became your internal object, the intrusive one, the one that says, you do not matter. Your feelings do not matter. You exist for others. And you carry this into every relationship. You choose people who intrude, who cannot respect boundaries, who need you to be what they need, who cannot tolerate your separateness. And you let them. You have no boundaries. You cannot say no. You cannot protect yourself. Because this is what you internalized. This is your internal object. This is what feels familiar. And when someone respects your boundaries, when someone lets you be separate, when someone does not intrude, it feels wrong, feels unfamiliar, feels unsafe, because it does not match your internal object, does not fit your template, and you may even push them away, may even create intrusion, because the absence of intrusion feels like abandonment, feels like they do not care, feels like you do not matter. And the shadow asks you to see this, to feel this, to acknowledge I was intruded upon, was not allowed to be separate, was not allowed to have boundaries, was not allowed to be myself. And this shaped me, created my internal objects, created my attachment style, created my sense that I have no right to boundaries, no right to separateness, no right to myself. And this is grief, is the grief of the self that was not allowed to exist, the boundaries that were not respected, the autonomy that was not given. And you must feel this grief, must acknowledge this loss, before you can heal, before you can create boundaries, before you can learn that you have a right to be separate, to be yourself, to exist. Insight 21, the infant who was dropped. Or perhaps your experience was inconsistency. Sometimes you were held. Sometimes you were dropped. Sometimes your caregiver was present. Sometimes absent. Sometimes responsive. Sometimes not. And you never knew what you would get. Never knew if your needs would be met. Never knew if you were safe. And this created terror, created the sense that the world is unpredictable, that people are unreliable, that you can never relax, can never trust, can never feel secure. And Klein would say this creates the most damaging internal objects, because you internalize both, the good object and the bad object. But you cannot integrate them, cannot understand they are the same person, cannot make sense of the inconsistency. And so you split. You keep the good object and the bad object separate. You idealize when they are good. You demonize when they are bad. You cannot hold both. cannot see them as whole, cannot develop object constancy, the sense that people remain the same even when they are not present, even when they disappoint, even when they fail. And this became your attachment style, anxious or fearful avoidant. You cling because you fear they will disappear. You push away because you fear they will hurt you. You cannot trust, cannot relax, cannot feel secure because your internal objects are inconsistent, are unpredictable, are sometimes good, sometimes bad, and you never know which you will get. And you carry this into every relationship. You are hypervigilant, always watching, always checking, always waiting for them to change, to become bad, to drop you. And your anxiety creates what you fear. Your hypervigilance pushes them away. Your inability to trust makes them unreliable. And you say, "See, I was right." They are inconsistent. They cannot be trusted. But you do not see your role. Do not see how your internal objects create your external reality. And the shadow asks you to see this, to feel this, to acknowledge, I was dropped, was held inconsistently, was never sure if I was safe. And this created terror, created my inability to trust, created my hypervigilance, created my anxious attachment. And this is grief, is the grief of never feeling secure, never feeling safe, never being able to relax. And you must feel this grief, must acknowledge this terror before you can heal, before you can learn to trust, before you can develop object constancy, before you can see people as whole, as both good and bad, as human, as reliable even when imperfect. Insight 22, the infant who felt envied. And perhaps there was something else, something more subtle, more insidious. Your caregiver did not just fail to hold you, did not just intrude, did not just drop you. They envied you, envied your aliveness, your needs, your demands, your existence, and you felt it. Even as an infant, felt their resentment, felt their wish that you were not there, felt that your very existence was a burden, was too much, was unwanted. And Klein understood this, understood that some caregivers envy their infants, envy their neediness, their dependency, their demand for attention. And they attack, not physically, but emotionally. They withdraw, they withhold. They make the infant feel that their needs are too much, are a burden, are unwelcome. And the infant internalizes this, internalizes the sense that they are too much, that their needs are shameful, that they should not exist, should not need, should not demand. And this creates a particular kind of internal object, the envious object, the one that attacks your aliveness, your needs, your very existence. And you carry this into every relationship. You minimize your needs. You make yourself small. You apologize for existing. You feel ashamed of needing. You believe you are too much. And you choose people who confirm this. who make you feel that your needs are a burden, who resent your demands, who wish you were less. And you accept this because this is your internal object. This is what feels familiar. This is what you believe you deserve. And worse, you do this to yourself. You envy your own needs, resent your own aliveness, attack your own existence. You tell yourself you should need less, should be less, should not be so much, and you destroy your own good, sabotage your own happiness, attack your own linking, because your internal object is envious, is attacking, is destructive, and you have internalized this, have made it part of yourself, and now you do to yourself what was done to you. Attack yourself, envy yourself, destroy your own good. And the shadow asks you to see this, to feel this, to acknowledge, I was envied. My needs were resented. My existence was a burden. And I internalized this, made it my internal object. And now I envy myself, attack myself, destroy my own good. And this is grief, is the grief of never being welcomed, never being celebrated, never being allowed to be fully alive. And you must feel this grief, must acknowledge this attack before you can heal, before you can stop envying yourself, before you can develop gratitude, before you can protect your own good, before you can allow yourself to be alive, to need, to exist. Insight 23, the grief of what was not given. And as you see all this, as you face these early experiences, as you understand what created your internal objects, something happens. You grieve. You grieve for the infant you were, the infant who was not held, or was intruded upon, or was dropped, or was envied. You grieve for what you did not get, for what you needed but did not receive, for the containment that was not there, for the consistency that was missing, for the welcome that never came. And this grief is deep, is profound, is the grief of a lifetime, because you have been carrying this loss since infancy, have been trying to compensate for it, have been trying to get from others what you did not get then, have been trying to create externally what you do not have internally. And now you see that you cannot get from others what you did not get as an infant, cannot make someone hold you the way you needed to be held, cannot make someone see you the way you needed to be seen, cannot undo what was not given. And Klein would say, this grief is necessary, is essential, is the only way through, because you cannot heal what you do not grieve, cannot let go of what you do not acknowledge, cannot create new internal objects while still trying to get the old needs met. You must grieve, must feel the loss, must acknowledge, I did not get what I needed, and I cannot get it now, not from them, not from anyone, not in the way I needed it then. And this is painful, is the pain of accepting reality, of accepting loss, of accepting that some things cannot be undone, cannot be fixed, cannot be made right. But Klein would also say, this grief is liberating, because in grieving what you did not get, you stop trying to get it. Stop choosing people who cannot give it. Stop repeating the pattern. Stop trying to make the past different. And you can begin to create something new. Can begin to build new internal objects. Not by getting what you did not get, but by giving to yourself what you needed. By learning to hold yourself, to contain yourself, to see yourself. By internalizing new experiences, new relationships, new ways of being. And this is how healing happens. Not by undoing the past, but by creating new internal objects in the present. By grieving what was not given, and then giving it to yourself. Insight 24, the terror of changing internal objects. But facing this grief, acknowledging these early experiences, understanding your internal objects. This is terrifying because these internal objects have been with you since infancy, have been your way of making sense of the world, have been your survival strategy, have been all you know. And changing them means letting go of the familiar, letting go of what you know, letting go of your way of being. And this feels like death, feels like annihilation, feels like you will not survive. And Klein understood this, understood that changing internal objects activates primitive anxiety, the paranoid schizoid anxiety, the fear of annihilation, because your internal objects are not just ideas, are not just patterns, are the structure of yourself, are how you know who you are. And changing them means not knowing, means uncertainty, means existing without the familiar structure. And this is terrifying, is the terror of the infant who has no structure, no containment, no way to organize experience. And you fear this. Fear that if you let go of your internal objects, you will fall apart, will disintegrate, will cease to exist. And this is why change is so hard, why healing is so difficult, why you resist even when you want to change. Because changing means facing this terror, means tolerating this anxiety, means existing in uncertainty, without the familiar internal objects, without the familiar patterns, without the familiar way of being. And you must be willing to face this, must be willing to tolerate this terror, must be willing to exist in uncertainty, while new internal objects form, while new patterns develop, while new ways of being emerge. And this takes time, takes support, takes containment from others, takes therapy, takes relationships that can hold you while you change, while you grieve, while you let go of the old and create the new. And Klein would say, this is possible, is what therapy provides, is what healing relationships provide. The containment you need to face this terror, to tolerate this anxiety, to exist in uncertainty, while you change, while you grieve, while you create new internal objects. And this is the work, the deep work, the work of facing the shadows, of understanding your early experiences, of grieving what was not given, of tolerating the terror of change, and slowly, gradually creating new internal objects, new ways of being, new attachment patterns, not by force, not by willpower, but by being held, by being contained, by being seen in the present, in ways you were not in the past. And through this healing, transforming, becoming capable of secure attachment, even if you did not have it before, even if your early experiences were difficult. You can heal, and the shadows show you how. And now we arrive at integration, at the place where understanding becomes practice, where insight becomes healing, where theory becomes lived experience. This is not about fixing yourself, not about becoming someone different, not about erasing your past. It is about creating new internal objects, about developing your insecure attachment, about learning to reach the depressive position, to integrate good and bad, to contain your own feelings, to repair relationships, to love realistically. And Klein proved this is possible. Proved that even if your early experiences were difficult, you can heal, can change your internal objects, can transform your attachment style, not by changing the past, but by creating new experiences in the present. And this integration is the work, the daily practice, the ongoing choice to see, to feel, to grieve, to create, to heal. Insight 25, finding containment. And the first practice is finding containment. Finding people who can hold your feelings, who can receive your projections, who can tolerate your anxiety, who can process what you cannot process, who can give back to you in manageable form what feels unmanageable. This is what Klein meant by a containing object. And this is what you need to heal, need to internalize, need to experience. Not once, but repeatedly, consistently, over time, until you internalize the containing function, until you can hold your own feelings, can contain your own anxiety, can process your own experience. And this containment comes from therapy, from a therapist who can receive your projections without retaliating, who can hold your feelings without being overwhelmed, who can understand your internal objects without judging, who can see you, really see you, in ways you were not seen as an infant. And through this relationship, you internalize. You take in the experience of being held, of being contained, of being understood, and slowly, this becomes an internal object, a good internal object, one that can hold you, can soothe you, can help you tolerate anxiety, can help you process feelings, can help you make sense of experience. But containment also comes from relationships, from friends who can listen without fixing, from partners who can hold your anxiety without becoming anxious, from people who can be present with your feelings without needing you to change them. And you must learn to recognize these people, to choose them, to let them in, to allow yourself to be held, to allow yourself to be contained, even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it does not match your internal objects, even when it feels unsafe, because this is how new internal objects are created, through new experiences, through being held in ways you were not held before, through containment you did not receive as an infant. And you must also learn to ask for containment, to say, I need you to hold this with me. I need you to listen. I need you to be present. Not to fix, not to solve, just to hold. And this is hard, is vulnerable, is admitting need, is acknowledging that you cannot do it alone. But Klein would say, this is not weakness. Is human. Is what we all need. Is how we develop the capacity to contain ourselves. Through being contained by others. Through internalizing the containing function. Through learning that feelings can be held. Can be tolerated. Can be survived. And this is the first practice. Finding containment. Allowing containment. Internalizing containment. Until you can contain yourself. Insight 26, reaching the depressive position. And the second practice is reaching the depressive position. Is learning to integrate good and bad. To see people as whole. To hold ambivalence. To tolerate that the person you love is also the person who hurts you. That the person you need is also the person who disappoints you. That people are complex, are human, are both good and bad. And this is hard, is painful, is giving up the simplicity of splitting, the safety of idealization, the protection of seeing people as all good or all bad, but is necessary, is the foundation of secure attachment, is what allows real love, real intimacy, real relationship. And you practice this by catching yourself splitting, by noticing when you are seeing someone as all good or all bad, when you are idealizing or demonizing, when you cannot hold complexity, and you pause, you breathe, you remind yourself this person is both, is good and bad, is loving and hurtful, is reliable and disappointing, is human, and you practice holding both. Practice tolerating the discomfort of ambivalence. Practice staying present with the complexity, not splitting, not simplifying, not protecting yourself through idealization or devaluation, but seeing, really seeing the whole person with all their contradictions, all their humanity. And reaching the depressive position also means feeling guilt, feeling remorse, feeling concern for the other, recognizing that your anger, your demands, your projections have impact, have hurt the person you love, have damaged the relationship you need. And this is painful, is the depressive anxiety Klein described, the fear that you have destroyed what you love. But this pain is necessary, is what motivates reparation, motivates the desire to repair, to make amends, to care for the person you have hurt. And this is the beginning of real love, of genuine concern, of the capacity to see the other as separate, as deserving of care, as worthy of repair. And you practice reparation. Practice saying, I am sorry. I hurt you. I was wrong. Practice making amends. Practice caring for the relationship. Practice repairing what you have damaged. Not because you are bad. Not because you are wrong. But because you are human. Because you have impact. Because relationships require repair. Require the capacity to acknowledge harm. To feel remorse. To make amends. And this is the depressive position. This is psychological maturity. This is what secure attachment requires. The capacity to integrate, to feel guilt, to repair, to love realistically rather than idealistically. And this is the second practice, reaching the depressive position. again and again, because you will regress, will split, will idealize and devalue, and you must return, must reintegrate, must repair. This is the ongoing work. Insight 27, transforming envy into gratitude. And the third practice is transforming envy into gratitude, is learning to appreciate rather than attack, to protect good rather than destroy it, to celebrate others rather than diminish them, to receive help rather than reject it. And this is hard, is perhaps the hardest practice, because envy is deep, is primitive, is constitutional, and it attacks the very process of healing, attacks the capacity to receive, to learn, to take in good. But Klein believed it can be transformed through gratitude, through the practice of appreciation, through learning to protect what is good rather than destroy it. And you practice this by noticing envy, by catching yourself when you are diminishing someone's success, when you are finding flaws in what is good, when you are rejecting help because receiving it makes you feel inadequate, when you are sabotaging your own good because having it makes you anxious. And you pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, am I envying? Am I attacking good? Am I destroying what I need? And if the answer is yes, you practice gratitude. You practice appreciating. You practice saying, this is good. I am grateful for this. I will protect this rather than destroy it. And you practice celebrating others. Practice feeling genuinely happy for their success. Practice learning from them rather than diminishing them. Practice receiving their help without feeling inadequate. Practice acknowledging that they have something good, and that their having it does not diminish you, does not make you less, does not mean you are inadequate. You practice gratitude for what they offer, for what they teach, for what they give. And through this practice, envy transforms, loses its power, becomes less automatic, less destructive, and gratitude grows, becomes stronger, becomes the capacity to receive, to learn, to take in good, to protect what is valuable. And this is essential for healing, because you cannot heal if you attack the process, cannot change if you destroy what helps, cannot develop new internal objects if you envy what is offered. And you also practice gratitude toward yourself. Practice appreciating your own good, your own success, your own growth. Practice protecting it rather than destroying it. Practice allowing yourself to have good, to feel happy, to succeed, without sabotaging, without attacking, without destroying. And this is hard, is perhaps harder than celebrating others, because your internal object may be envious, may attack your aliveness, may resent your needs, may want to destroy your good, but you practice anyway. Practice gratitude, practice protection, practice allowing yourself to be alive, to need, to have good. And slowly, the envious internal object softens, transforms, becomes less attacking, and a new internal object emerges. One that appreciates, that protects, that celebrates, that allows you to be alive. And this is the third practice, transforming envy into gratitude, daily, moment by moment, until gratitude becomes stronger than envy. Insight 28, developing object constancy. And the fourth practice is developing object constancy, is learning that people remain the same even when they are not present, even when they disappoint, even when they fail, is learning to hold the whole object in mind, the good and the bad, the loving and the hurtful, the reliable and the disappointing, and to trust that they will return, that they have not disappeared, that they still care, even when they are absent, even when they are frustrating, even when they are not meeting your needs in this moment. And this is essential for secure attachment, because without object constancy, you panic when they are absent. You split when they disappoint. You cannot trust, cannot relax, cannot feel secure. You are always anxious, always checking, always waiting for them to disappear, to become bad, to abandon you. But with object constancy, you can tolerate absence, can tolerate disappointment, can trust that they will return, that the relationship continues even when they are not present, that they are still good even when they are frustrating, that they still love you even when they are not meeting your needs in this moment. And you develop object constancy through practice, through staying in relationships when they are difficult, when the person disappoints, when they are not meeting your needs, and not splitting, not idealizing or demonizing, not leaving, not pushing away, but staying, holding the whole person in mind, remembering the good even when experiencing the bad, trusting that they will return even when they are absent, believing that the relationship continues even when it is difficult. And this is hard, requires tolerating anxiety, requires not acting on the impulse to split, to leave, to protect yourself. But through this practice, object constancy develops, the capacity to hold the whole object, to trust continuity, to feel secure even in absence, even in disappointment, even in difficulty. And object constancy also means holding yourself constant, means not splitting yourself into all good or all bad, means seeing yourself as whole, as both good and bad, as worthy of love even when you fail, even when you disappoint, even when you are not perfect. And this is perhaps the deepest practice, the practice of self-constancy, of holding yourself with compassion, with understanding, with the recognition that you are human, are imperfect, are both good and bad, and are worthy of love, of care, of existence, not because you are perfect, but because you are. And this is the fourth practice, developing object constancy for others, for yourself, until you can trust, can relax, can feel secure, even in absence, even in disappointment, even in imperfection. Insight 29, creating new internal objects. And the fifth practice is creating new internal objects, is actively internalizing new experiences, new relationships, new ways of being held, of being seen, of being loved. And Klein understood that this is how healing happens, not by changing the past, cannot change what happened, but by creating new experiences in the present. that slowly, over time, modify the old internal objects, create new ones, build new templates, new ways of relating, new capacities, and you create new internal objects through therapy, through the experience of being held by a therapist who does not retaliate, who does not abandon, who does not intrude, who can contain your feelings, can tolerate your projections, can see you without judging, and you internalize this. Take it in, make it part of your internal world, and it becomes a new internal object, a good object, one that can hold you, can soothe you, can help you tolerate anxiety, can help you feel secure, and this internal object stays with you, even when therapy ends, even when the therapist is not present, because you have internalized them, have made them part of yourself. And you create new internal objects through relationships, through friends who are consistent, who are reliable, who can hold your feelings without being overwhelmed, through partners who can be intimate without intruding, who can be separate without abandoning, who can love you as you are, not as they need you to be. And you internalize these experiences. Take them in. Let them modify your old internal objects. Let them create new ones. Let them teach you that people can be trustworthy, that closeness can be safe, that love can be reliable, that you can be seen, can be held, can be loved as you are. And you also create new internal objects through self-compassion, through learning to hold yourself, to soothe yourself, to speak to yourself with kindness rather than criticism, to see yourself with understanding rather than judgment, to care for yourself as you would care for someone you love. And this is perhaps the most important internal object, the compassion itself. The one that can hold you when no one else can soothe you when you are alone, can help you tolerate anxiety, can help you feel secure, even in the absence of others, even when relationships are difficult, even when you are struggling. And this internal object is created through practice, through daily self-compassion, through treating yourself with the care you need as an infant, the care you may not have received, but can give yourself now. And this is the fifth practice, creating new internal objects through therapy, through relationships, through self-compassion, until your internal world is populated with good objects, with holding objects, with objects that can help you feel secure, can help you love, can help you be. Insight 30, living with insecure attachment. And so we arrive at the final practice, the ongoing practice, the practice of a lifetime, living with insecure attachment, not the secure attachment of those who had perfect childhoods, who were held consistently, who were seen clearly, who were loved unconditionally, but earned secure attachment, the attachment you develop through understanding, through grieving, through healing, through creating new internal objects, through reaching the depressive position, through transforming envy into gratitude, through developing object constancy, through the hard work of integration. And earned secure attachment means you can be intimate without losing yourself, can be separate without feeling abandoned, can need without being needy, can love without idealizing, can be angry without destroying, can be disappointed without splitting, can tolerate anxiety without projecting, can hold ambivalence without collapsing, can repair relationships without shame, can receive help without envy, can be alone without terror, can be close without intrusion, can be yourself, fully, authentically, imperfectly, and feel secure, feel loved, feel worthy, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And this does not mean you never regress, never split, never project, never envy, never feel anxious. You do, you will, because you are human, because stress activates old patterns, because your early internal objects do not disappear. They remain. They can be triggered. They can return. But earned secure attachment means you can recognize when this happens, can see when you are regressing, can catch yourself splitting, can notice when you are projecting, can feel the envy, can acknowledge the anxiety, and can return, can reintegrate, can reach the depressive position again, can contain yourself, can repair, can come back to secure attachment. Not perfectly, not always quickly, but eventually, consistently, over time. And Klein would say, this is enough. This is healing. This is what is possible. Not perfection. Not the elimination of all anxiety. Not the complete transformation of all internal objects, but the capacity to see, to understand, to grieve, to integrate, to repair, to love realistically, to feel secure even with imperfect internal objects, even with difficult early experiences, even with attachment wounds, because you have done the work, have faced the shadows, have grieved what was not given, have created new internal objects, have developed earned secure attachment. And this is not a destination, is a practice, is a way of being, is the ongoing choice to see clearly, to feel deeply, to integrate honestly, to repair consistently, to love realistically, and to live fully, authentically, securely, as yourself. And this is what Klein offers. Not a cure, not a promise of perfection, but a path, a way to understand your attachment style, to see your internal objects, to grieve your early experiences, to create new internal objects, to develop earned secure attachment, to heal, not by changing the past, but by creating new experiences in the present, not by becoming someone different, but by becoming more fully yourself, more integrated, more whole, more capable of love, of intimacy, of relationship, of life. And this work begins now, with you, with your willingness to see, to feel, to grieve, to integrate, to heal. This is the work. This is the practice. This is the path. And it is possible. Klein proved it is possible. And you can walk it, can heal, can transform, can develop earn secure attachment, can live fully, authentically, securely, as yourself. The journey is complete. You've traveled far tonight, through shadows, through light, through depths most never see. Your mind has done its work. You can rest now. This is the still point, your anchor in the sea of thought, a place you can always return to whenever the world becomes too loud. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this space, for trusting yourself. Sleep well. Good night.